But okay, so now speaking of doing this already, let's go ahead and have this spoiler discussion here on Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. Because one of the very first things I thought about when the film began was I feel like this film does require watching WandaVision and stuff. I feel like if you walked into this and you never saw WandaVision, what she does in this movie must confuse the hell out of you.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
mean, this
Like,
was a sequel. I honestly, this movie felt almost like a sequel to WandaVision more than it did
yeah,
a Doctor Strange movie.
yeah. So that was just something that kept jumping out at me throughout the first hour and a half as we're seeing the great depths at which she's willing to go to get America Chavez and how she's basically gone full blown evil, villain.
Which I
And
really
it's like,
appreciated that they went for it. I
yeah,
mean,
no, I had no
they
issue
did a
with it.
full heel change.
Yeah, I was all in it. But I'm like, if I didn't watch WandaVision and
Yeah.
understand the full depths of despair that she went through due to the death of Vision and the insanity that she did to try to create this idyllic fake alternate reality for herself, like, if you don't know about all that, I feel like her heel turn came out of nowhere for you,
Yeah. Agreed.
because you remember her being sad about Vision dying, vaguely from one of the movies,
Yeah.
but you don't really know what the psychological toll it took on her.
Right.
But I guess that was one of my first big observations watching it. In terms of like story stuff, I mean, I don't know. What is a spoiler type of opinion that you'd like to share about this movie now that it's you're free to do so? Because
Right.
by the way, that was my spoiler. Scarlet Witch is the freaking bad guy in this movie, and I wasn't sure if
she
everyone
is
knew
not
that.
like I thought it was going to be more of like a team up with them, but maybe her being like a little wishy washy,
Yeah.
half evil. And no, full like full stop. She
Yeah.
is the villain of this movie. She
Yeah.
went full villain,
And I didn't mind it, but that was crazy.
yeah, and I thought she crushed it, and I was amazed with how violent the movie was. They really went for it.
Yeah, for a Marvel movie, this had the most sort of like gore, most sort of like just terrifying imagery and people dying and heads caving in and exploding and things. So
Right.
can we just jump right to that? I gotta talk.
I guess we just got yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the Illuminati scene because that's the one where you and I like started elbowing the hell out of each other. Because like, okay, when I saw the silhouette for Agent Carter, I smiled because I'm like, okay, we knew she was coming.
She was kind of teased in the trailer. There was like in the more recent like TV spotter trailer, there was like a shot, and I was like, oh, that's totally.
Yeah. And longtime listeners of this here podcast heard me. This is a scoop confirmation. I announced on this show like a year and a half ago that she was going to be in the film. So seeing her, I was like happy about that.
I love Haley Atwell too.
Oh, Haley Atwell. Yes. Throw the shield at me. Okay.
Yes.
And then as we started going around the room, though, when I saw Black Bolt, first of all, I love Anson Mount from Hell on Wheels, that actor. And now he's in some Star Trek show. And I know he's having a real good time there. I know he had a real bad time on the Inhumans because I know that they were setting up this whole Inhumans universe. And then they just kind of said, screw it, never mind. I don't know if you remember all that stuff. There was like a weird thing with Marvel TV.
He was on the TV show?
Yeah. He played Black Bolt in the Inhumans or in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever.
I never watched the Inhumans because it was supposed to be an abomination. So, that's even cooler that they cast him.
That made it even cooler. Yeah. So when I saw they got Anson Mount back as Black Bolt, I'm like, oh, now we get to see.
I was just like, oh shit, they put Black Bolt in it. I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Like I recognize the character, but
then there was the person next to him that I didn't really care one bit about. But then as we went to the other side of the room and they said, and the smartest man in the world, and Reed Richards shows up and it's John Krasinski. I mean, I freaked the hell out.
Yeah, you and me were like elbowing each other,
broke each other's rib cages. I'm so glad that that didn't get ruined for me.
Yes.
Like that was a legit oh my god moment, for me, and for you. But it's like,
Yeah.
that's one of those things that almost feels too good to be true, because for years people have been pointing out, whoa, John Krasinski would make for a great Reed Richards, and he's
Yeah.
really sort of aged into that role perfectly.
Right.
And he's married to an ideal Sue Storm in
Yeah.
Emily Blunt. So like that's the next piece of the puzzle that would be amazing to see happen.
Right.
And also with John Watts quitting the Fantastic Four movie, which quietly happened in these last 2 weeks, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like that doesn't get a lot of press. For some reason, when Marvel directors disappear from a project, it just happens quietly. But when a DC director, there's some sort of controversy, it's like, oh my God, DC's
and it's crazy though, because
fire
John
now.
Watts directed 3 Spider-Man movies. Let's not forget, like he wasn't just like on for one movie; like he was a big part of the MCU.
And he just
so
said,
to speak.
I'm out. I've done too much of this. I'm burnt out. I gotta go.
Yeah.
But with him stepping out, right? And John Krasinski recently showing what a good director he is via A Quiet Place, I'm like, maybe we go the route of having him direct it and star in it and have Emily Blunt in it. I don't know if I'm just putting too many eggs in the Krasinski basket. But as a The Office fan who knows that he's got the goods, who loves him as an actor, who loves him as a writer and a director, as someone who just, and I know that he came close in the past. He was one of the people in the running to play Captain America before they went with Chris Evans.
That's right.
So I'm just happy to see him now. He made it into this world, and I'm super pumped.
He's good in Jack Ryan too on Amazon Prime. I only watched the first season, but he was very good in that.
Yeah,
and he can be an action star. He's an action guy.
Yeah.
He really can.
I buy it. But then,
so I should mention this just to give a little context respect. The character that you saw that you didn't care about right away, I believe that was Monica Rambeau as the Captain Marvel.
No. I know who that was. No, there was a dude sitting next to Black Bolt who I didn't recognize from a hole in the wall and didn't seem to factor in. Or was that? Are you
thinking of
Marvel?
What's his face? The Doctor Strange rival guy. Was it just him sitting down?
No, not Baron Mordo. Unless maybe I just didn't recognize Captain Marvel at first, and then
I think you didn't recognize Captain Marvel at first. Yeah.
Okay,
which was a cool nod, just because Monica Rambeau obviously was in the Captain Marvel movie with Brie Larson, and then we found out in WandaVision that because time had passed, she had passed away of cancer, and her daughter got some powers at the end of WandaVision. So we know in the movies, in the Miss Marvel coming out, it's going to be her daughter with Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and Brie Larson for the Marvels. That film coming out, but it was cool to see Monica Rambeau in there because she's like a fan favorite Captain Marvel character in the comics.
That's what it was. You know what it was? When they first showed her face with the mask on, I didn't recognize her, so I'm like, who the hell's that? And I think that was my first impression that stuck with me. But you're right, when she takes the mask, I'm like, oh, they're going with the Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel. I see what's going on. But then the big one was, Krasinski as Reed Richards was the big one.
Krasinski was the big one.
but honestly, though, even though we knew Patrick Stewart was in it because they had his voice in the trailer, I did not expect to see him in the yellow wheelchair.
He was in the full 90s X-Men animated cartoon,
complete with
down
the
to the
music.
suit, the tie, and then the and then he just rolled out, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
It's happening to me again. I don't know if the camera could pick it up. It sees my burn from Mother's Day cooking, but I don't know if I've got legit crazy goosebumps when I heard
that gave me chills when it played that. I was like, that was for the old. That was for all the olds in the audience. That was for us.
The olds in the audience, and it was such a cool way to like bring everything full circle. Like now, we know this version of Xavier is essentially like the live action extension of that Professor Xavier. He has that chair, that music as his entrance. And it's like, there's so many 90s babies who flipped the hell out during that moment. And Yeah, we were
I mean, down to
amongst.
even the hand motions. He did the point
Yeah,
and
when
the
you
thing,
did the
and then they
yeah.
even did the effect with the little rings. They like literally like did everything
Wow.
about it was from the show, but it
Yeah.
also implies. Well, see, this implies a lot of things.
Yeah.
So because another universe, but there's a universe out there where there are X-Men, is
Yes.
what we just learned, and there's a
Yes.
universe out there where the Fantastic Four exist.
Yes.
Because I, as of right now, we don't know that they exist in Earth 616,
But on
but
that
they
guy's
exist in
Earth,
that one.
yeah.
So I wonder if, like, when they start introducing the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, if they put them in Earth 616, or maybe they do keep like a whole separate universe for some of the other properties and branch
Yeah.
off that way and say, hey, this universe is this heroes are there, because
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to, like, if the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards, has to get transported to Earth 616. He's real smart, so like he's not just going to be like stuck there. Like he'll
Yeah.
find a way to get back out to his own universe. So I
For
wonder if they
sure.
do that and they make like a whole nother Earth and offshoot, and that has a whole different set of heroes, and they could kind of branch it off like that.
Yeah. I would be down. I'd be down for that.
Also,
Assuming it's handled right.
let's talk about the Fantastic Four, the John Krasinski suit. Wasn't wild about it, huh?
Yes.
What do
Hey,
you think?
yeah, I thought the suit looked a little. The suit was a little underwhelming. It didn't seem to fit him too right. He's got a
Yeah,
really long torso, but it looked like the belt line was like above his belly button, and like yeah, it didn't sit quite right on him. It looked kind of like a last minute. We have this suit from an old concept in the back of the
yeah,
studio lot. Can you fit in this, John? You know. And I wonder though too, because we did hear that there were reshoots and things that kind of got overhauled, and I wonder if like was he always included, or was that something they decided on sort of late in the game,
right.
and maybe that's one of the reasons John Hamm left. It's like I'm trying to reboot Fantastic Four here, but now you're kind of like
John
letting
Watts, not John Hamm.
John Hamm. Sorry,
You said John Hamm.
no,
John Watts. John
John
Watts.
Watts. Yeah, imagine.
Yes.
Let's get John Hamm involved too. Why not?
I was like,
No,
John
but
Hamm. I was like,
maybe
he'd be a
John
good
Watts
Reed
was like,
Richards.
listen, you blew the load on the Fantastic Four here. That was going to be my thing, and now you've already like I don't know,
Right.
but I wonder if that might have been one of the things that was thrown in there late in the game,
Yeah.
because that costume definitely didn't seem like the most well conceived, well thought out costume of them all. But real quick about Xavier too, one thing that I liked about bringing him back, that it wasn't just empty fan service, was there was that subplot there towards the end where no one seems to want to trust this Stephen Strange because of how all the other Stephen Stranges have gone, and because of this one's checkered past with breaking the rules and this and that. But the fact that Xavier basically went to vouch for him, and he said that thing towards the end, like you can't judge a man by his past, and I trust him, essentially. Like it was whatever it was that he said, it hit me, because
Right.
that is so true of Professor X. We've seen Patrick Stewart's Xavier take these gambles. We know that he believes in checkered past mutants, people
Sure.
who on their who don't seem like all that reliable, or based on what they've done in the past, maybe you should write them off. So him going to bat for Stephen Strange in this was like, yeah, that was good. To me, that was
Yeah.
up there with like some of the moments between Doc Ock and and the Tobey Maguire Peter
Right.
Parker in No Way Home, where it's like they didn't just bring him back to make us go, ah, they brought him back to also kind of like honor the character. And in this scenario,
Sure.
he behaved truthful to what we know of his Xavier,
Right.
So I did love that. But
So we should, before I want to definitely more to talk about, a lot more to talk
yeah,
about, but real quick too. Now, we'll go back to just Krasinski one more time.
yeah,
Like, now that they've put him in here as
yes,
Reed Richards, and it's for this universe, or maybe only this universe,
yeah,
but now we know they're doing a Fantastic Four movie. Do
yes.
you think they have him locked down for that, and he's going to be our Reed Richards, or
I mean, that's how I interpreted it.
is
When
it
I saw him, I took that as, oh,
casting and then just straight up murder him?
yeah, I mean, they did straight up murder him. We're gonna get to that part in a second.
Yeah,
That was
I want to talk
incredible.
about that next.
But here's the thing. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but in the Marvel universe, it seems like every variant is played by the same actor. Oh no, but as I said it, I realized I was lying. Because in Loki, he met variants who
All the
weren't played by
Lokis don't
Tom
look. Yeah.
Hiddleston. Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, hasn't Marvel pretty much said that, like, given the impression that the same actor always plays him? But I guess they could, in theory, say that the John Krasinski Reed Richards was just one variant and still give us a different actor. But then I think they'd piss everyone off because everyone really wanted Krasinski as Richards. If
Yeah.
you're gonna give him, if you're gonna give him to us for just what amounted to like under 10 minutes, then
Right.
go to hell with that.
Yeah.
So I interpreted it as this is the start of his run as Reed Richard, and when we finally get his movie, we'll learn more about him. You know,
Right.
and that version got killed off, but we know there's a million versions of these, so
Right.
you know that doesn't necessarily ruin me. But now, since we're talking about them dying, uh, and speaking of like things that were kept a surprise, things that were not spoiled for me,
Yeah.
thank goodness, was that in the middle of this movie, it becomes like the Suicide Squad. We're like, we're going to introduce you to like 5 heroes, and then we're going to show them all dying one by one over the next few minutes. I did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming, and I couldn't believe Marvel like okayed that.
Yes.
Like
Okay.
crazy.
The first one. Okay. She covers Black Bolt. She takes away Black Bolt's mouth.
She does the Matrix thing where
Yeah.
they get rid of the mouth.
And he tries to scream. And when he does, the back of his head like explodes and implodes.
And just starts like sagging.
And he just dies. Then I mean the Reed Richard one where she just turns him into a bunch of little like rubbery
Like
threads
rubber
and then
strings.
his
Like she
head
shredded
comes
him
apart.
and then like I think like imploded his head or like burst his head. Yeah.
That was so sick and dark and crazy.
Yeah.
And then she just drops a giant statue on Captain Marvel. She snaps Professor Xavier's
Professor
neck.
X almost gets through to save Wanda from the Scarlet Witch. And then she does like, and she comes out like crazy demon bent style and just snaps his neck and he dies.
And I was wondering too, like while they're in this space, I wonder, are they going to acknowledge the reality where she's Magneto's daughter? Because remember, Magneto and Quicksilver are Magneto's kids in certain, in the X-Men continuity. So I'm like, I wonder if they're going to acknowledge that, but they didn't. But speaking of things I thought that we'll get to later, things I thought they were going to acknowledge but didn't.
Right.
But for now, when we're talking about all the Illuminati being introduced and then killed off one by one, was there anything else about that you wanted to comment on?
No, I thought it was like super cool that they had them, and then they also had like all the Ultron drone servants.
Yes,
which was cool.
So then honestly, then this does sort of give way into the things I thought that they were going to acknowledge but didn't, because there was some stuff from Marvel's What If that to me just seemed like naturally would be leading into this, or that they were trying to get us to believe was going to be part of this by showing those Ultron robots. Look, on the Marvel What If animated stuff, in the one where Ultron is, what if Ultron wins in that episode, he takes on Vision's body. He gets that sort of invincible form. He kills Thanos, puts on the Infinity Gauntlet. Right. So you're getting spoilers for that too, everyone. But he basically, but by the end of that, he's able to break through into wherever it is that the Watcher is able to watch all of the different existing multiverses. And What If sort of ends on this cliffhanger of like this super powered, super intelligent, godlike Ultron who now has the power to travel from multiverse to multiverse. So when they showed the Ultron robots, me having seen that, I'm naturally thinking, oh, we're going to meet Super Ultron at some point in the middle of this.
Right.
And that literally never amounted to anything, aside from there just being some robots that vaguely resemble him. Then, same thing with the dark, crazy Doctor Strange that we meet towards the end, the final variant. When our Steven meets that Steven, that Steven in the trailers and just in his appearance and in the way the incursion that's happening on his world, he very much looks like the Doctor Strange from What If. And in that one, instead of breaking his hands, he's in the car with Christine and she dies. So he basically goes insane trying to
Right.
create a reality where she lives and going and like basically like messing with time and doing all this kind of stuff. And he has to learn all this dark magic and he has to absorb all these powers of all these demonic entities. And he eventually ends up this crazy, dark, powerful wizard. And
Right.
he's like destroyed himself and like the world along the way. So I'm like, oh wow. So now we're seeing him in live action. But then as the scene wears on, he references Christine asking him, "Are you happy?" And he's like, "Christine asked me that at her wedding." I'm like, "Oh, so on this guy's earth, she just got married also." So
Right.
it's not the death in the car. He's not that Doctor Strange at all. And he really did all this because she married someone other than him. Like,
Right.
I don't know. To me, like, it suddenly made the whole thing kind of like, but why go? How does that help the
Right.
movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it could have just been like I don't know. That to me, it felt like almost like what happened with WandaVision, where like they brought back the Aaron Peters Quicksilver to give us the impression something was going to happen, and then they called him Philip Boner, and it ended up just being a joke. There
Yeah.
was stuff here where they were like trying to misdirect us into thinking that the
Yeah.
Marvel What If stuff was going to factor in a lot more than it actually ended up doing. You know, and I just didn't quite get that decision. You know, that just kind
Right.
of irked me. Um, but all right, can I talk to you about what I hated about the end of that
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah. Please. Please.
So we know Scarlet Witch has been trying to get America Chavez for, the entirety of this film.
Right.
And now she finally has her there on that like altar thing, surrounded by the four big ogre guys. And we see her start to do the thing where she's like sucking the white power force like out of her, right?
Right.
But then something happens where like we see Wong down the cliff and the ogres go over to deal with him. And while that's happening, I think there's even a cutaway to what's going on with Doctor Strange elsewhere.
Right.
And when we get back, Scarlet Witch isn't even like facing Chavez anymore. She's over by the door. And then she just walks back just in time now for the heroes
Right.
to screw up her plan. And I'm just like, with all the minutes, all the time, everything had passed, it's like, to me, it just felt like cheap and crappy and forced. And it was
Yeah.
dumb villains doing dumb villain
There was
things.
some weird editing. Like I said, like, yeah, like you said, like the timing seemed like weird, like the way
Yeah.
time passed between some of the cuts. And then also yeah, you make like a good point there. Like you saw how like easy it was for Wanda to just dispatch people. I mean, she
Yeah.
straight up murders like
Yeah.
a lot of people, like with ease. You know,
Yeah.
she takes first of all the whole Illuminati who are like super powerful. She just like makes mincemeat of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then she wrecks everyone at Kamarta was it Kamartage?
Kamartaj, yeah.
Yeah, Kamartage. She's like just wrecking people, and then like she just like like when she's fighting Wong, like it just doesn't she doesn't kill him. Like why or like takes
Yeah.
too long,
Yeah.
and then she has to do like her long villain speech thing and like just some stuff like that where it's just like you were just dispatching people like that, and now
Yeah.
like you're gonna just like wait just for dramatic pause so something else could happen. Like
It
you could have
gets
literally,
schlocky.
she could have ended everybody in 2 seconds. Like
I know.
there was really no struggle that needed to happen at the end there. And
Yeah.
America Chavez seemed like such like she was like just like a weird like not a MacGuffin but just like a weird plot device. Like I also thought the
Yeah.
actress was kind of like
I was
eh.
going to say that's
She
exactly
was
what I was
very
about to
eh.
say. The
Yeah.
acting was very subpar on her end, and I hate to say that because she's a Latina, and it's
I don't think she had much
good.
to work with anyway, to be fair, and it like wasn't her film. It was just like
Yeah,
it was just one of those things where it's like we need to stick her in there because she's gonna be important later. And it was like it had some of that some of the stuff that I know you've come around on Iron Man 2, but like some of the
yes,
things that dragged Iron Man 2 down for me, I felt like were very present in this. Like this felt like a sequel to WandaVision and a setup for things to come, and Doctor Strange just happened to kind of be in the middle of it. It didn't necessarily even feel like his movie. He was just there. Like it almost felt like how he was in No Way Home, you know. But like
Yeah.
he had a little more screen time
Yeah,
than
like
that.
she was
Like
the main hero. Yeah, she was the main person we had to be worried about through most of it, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it was just I mean, by the way, we should just talk real quick. I loved that scene when they were falling through the multiverse with all like the
Yes.
rapid changes. I thought that
Yes.
was tremendous.
Yeah,
That
every
was
time they
really
did that, every time we got a chance to rapid fire see a bunch of different Earths, and then they
yeah.
land on. Yeah, like I love all that stuff. And
Was very
yeah,
very cool. Like yeah, the visuals were stunning in the movie. You know what I mean? Aside from and I alluded to this earlier, right? But like especially in the first like I want to say the first like third of the movie, it was very obvious like when they were on like a back lot or like on sets and like the lighting just wasn't good and like it also seemed like to me it felt like there were a lot of scenes where like the actors definitely weren't acting with each other, like they were definitely like acting by themselves, and then it was edited in with like green screen, like just some of the way the shots were cut. I was like, I don't think
yeah,
they filmed the scene together, and if you felt it, like it was stilted. Some of the dialogue, yeah, like there was that part on the rooftop, like early on in the film, that like I was like, this, it's like not even lit well. It reminded me of in the theatrical cut of Justice League. You remember the scene with Batman and like how bad that rooftop looked, and it looked like really
yeah.
just, like corny, like someone
And
built
all
it.
the
At, like
colors are just artificially
it
boosted,
looked
and it
like
just
a high
looks weird.
school like movie set, like a
Yeah,
play set, you know, like for a theatrical high school
yeah,
theatrical production. Yeah, like I got that a lot in this. And like we said, the wigs were pretty awful
yeah. See,
throughout.
I can't help but feel like it's like a weird Raimiism. Raimi, like, since he comes from like smaller, low budget movies, like I've noticed that in his films, he likes when they look a little sort of hyper stylized and not
Yeah,
necessarily the most beautiful and perfect. You know, like I remember that was one of the things that was interesting about like the transition from Spider-Man 1 to 2. Like in Spider-Man 1, you got the sense that he was being very by the books. He was being he turned in a very sort of um safe studio superhero movie. But
sure.
in two, when he kind of was given a little more leeway now that he had this massive hit and he could bring some of his Evil Dead type stuff to it, that's where you had the quirky stuff of like Peter Parker walking in slow motion with glasses and raindrops keep falling on my
Yeah,
head, and like weird close-ups of the scientists in the lab when Dr. Octopus's arms is killing them and they're looking directly into the camera, and it kind of like breaks the fourth wall and all, you know, like when Raimi's
yeah.
left to his own devices, he likes when things look a little like weird and garish
Oh
and
yeah,
over
that's his style.
stylized,
I mean, that
you
was
know?
like very in this movie. But I also wondering. I just think the effects budget was probably through the roof, and they were like they
Yeah.
had to cut somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you mentioned something really quick. We should talk about too. How cool was it when Wanda broke the fourth wall?
Yeah. When she, yeah. When she
Early
took
on, when like
over,
they first,
she
and then
dream walked into the other Wanda, and then she looks at the camera like, uh
yeah, and then she looked at us, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
that was a nice little touch.
Yes.
It was very cool, and
Speaking of,
also like I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say like quick the cape, Doctor Strange's cape,
Yes.
very much like I kind of like that it operates independently, but it
Yeah.
very much started to feel like the magic carpet from Aladdin. Like it was a little too Disney slapsticky in this,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
like,
I
all right,
thought
now,
that in the first one though, too.
and it
I
didn't
thought
look
in,
good either, CG wise.
yeah. Something that I thought that like they were going to mention that I thought was kind of cool, but then ultimately didn't get any kind of play, is that when he gets the hole in the cape and they have him there at the Illuminati sort of headquarters or whatever, when he gets it back, they mention that they patched it. You notice it's blue fabric.
Yes,
And we saw that on that Earth, Doctor Strange had a blue cape, not a red cape. So they
yes.
patched his cape with the other doctor's cape. You know what I
Ah,
mean?
very
So
good,
I
very
kind of
good.
thought that was interesting. I even thought that might play in somehow,
Yeah.
having a little bit of that other doc, you know, but it just didn't amount to it. It was just a visual thing that you might have noticed, you know.
They also, by the way, the Illuminati executed him. Like
Oh,
they executed somebody. So like they
yeah.
don't fuck around. Like Black Bolt, like just it evaporated him from existence.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah. Yeah. Um, then I gotta comment on Bruce Campbell. Thank you, Sam Raimi, for bringing Bruce Campbell into this, and
Yes.
then having him beat the hell out of himself for 3 weeks.
For
And then
3 weeks.
we come back after the credits and he gets one last punch and he goes, "It's over." And then,
Yeah.
that's when the movie ends.
That was really
The
good.
idea of, like, you and I started laughing in theaters, like, what I want a Disney Plus spinoff of what those 3 weeks were like. Imagine he had a lot of important things to do during
He had to
those
go to
3
the
weeks.
bank and he's
He has to go
just
to the bank. He has to go to, like, somebody's funeral. He has to go to a wedding. He has to go, and he's just constantly
he has his daughter's
beating,
recital.
yeah. I that just got me. I thought
That
that
was
was
very good.
hilarious. Who was Charlize Theron playing?
Okay, I looked this up. It's
Okay,
someone named, I think, Sarah, and she is
that's it.
apparently
Hang on, I'm waiting over here for some kind of like crazy superhero
no,
name.
I think it's like
Sarah?
Cera. It was like Sarah or something.
Sarah.
So
Oh.
she is a love interest of Doctor Strange's from the comics.
Oh. Okay.
But she's Dormammu's niece or
Oh.
something like that. From what I
Interesting.
understand.
Okay.
So yeah, and like she's
So
also
I
like a
guess
super
that's setting up
powerful like
this third movie in
sorceress.
some way. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess, and then we should talk the third eye. So I also did a little research into the third eye because remember the mid credit sequence has. So we should go back. So the evil Doctor Strange had a weird third eye. We were like,
Yes.
oh, it means he's really evil. So
Yeah.
anyway, so then our Doctor Strange in the mid credit sequence just goes out for a nice stroll in New York, and then that scene was it was done very awkwardly. Like he's just
Yeah.
like, ah, ah, ah. It's just like the acting was very weird,
And then it
and
ends.
then it
Yeah.
just eye popped out and it ends. So I did a little more research into the eye thing. So in the comics, the eye is actually the eye of Agamotto, which is what he wears around the cape, and it was the
Mhm.
time stone. And I believe he still has it. It was reconstructed now, so he has the eye of Agamotto. So there's like some point in the comics, I guess, where like I don't know, he hits like some level of transcendence, and like the eye of Agamotto becomes in him, and that gives him the third eye, and then he can like see through disguises and stuff like that. So I've seen some stuff that like that might have just been like him just like leveling up basically, and now he
Mhm.
has the third eye. But also in this one, it appears to be different that he got the third eye from using the Darkhold,
Mhm.
not from the Eye of Agamotto. So it could just be like a little change they made just for the films, or whatever.
Yeah.
But someone mentioned that it could be important because if they do indeed move towards like the Secret Wars and the Scrolls, which like I think they've introduced the
Yeah.
Scrolls, so
In
like
Captain
I would
Marvel.
think they're gonna do some shit with that now.
Yeah.
That could be very important because he will be able to see through the imposters with the
Hmm.
third eye. So I don't think, because I was concerned if it meant he was turning evil, and I don't think that's the case. I just think
Yeah.
he has like a new power, and like the stone, like the power of the Eye of Agamotto or the Darkhold is now like in him, and he just has like a new power. That's kind of what it is. It was very weird and jarring
Yeah.
though, like not explained. And I guess I'll have to wait.
So where does this leave you with anticipation for a Doctor Strange 3? Are you looking forward to it, and are you hoping Raimi returns for it?
Yeah, so it looks like right with the one Sarah or whatever it is. I think it's Sarah showed up
Yeah.
like when Charlize Theron showed up. She cut like a space time hole, and then she was like, "You gotta help me stop this incursion." And he was just like, "I don't know who you are, but okay, fine." And like he was just very ready to go do that with the stranger. So I thought that was kind of weird too. But anyway,
Well, it's Charlize
so
Theron, dude.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, Charlie's Theron, all right, I'm in." So they're gonna go stop an incursion. So it looks like his next adventure will still involve the multiverse. So
Yeah.
I think that's like a fun thing if they do all the really wacky, crazy shit. Doctor Strange is the wacky, crazy shit guy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily mind if Sam Raimi comes back, but I do think like I'm torn because like I like his style and I loved like the horror elements and like a lot of that stuff was done really great, but just like you said, some of his Sam Raimi isms, like the slapstick sticky kind of
Or the
stuff, and
the one-liners. I mean,
yeah,
Rachel McAdams probably had to go take a shower right after she filmed the line, "I'm gonna send you back to
the
hell,"
hell,
as she
yeah,
shot one of the demonic things. Like,
Yeah, the
he
one-liners
definitely
were
brings
bad.
a certain amount of like schlock and cheese, which I'm
And
surprised.
that's like his
Yeah,
thing. It
yeah,
is like that's his thing. But like they would just linger on the one-liners too long, and there were a lot of like weird lingering shots with people like looking like just too long, like off screen, like like just like have one of those like moments where they're like pensive. But
yeah.
then like it should have been like 2 seconds and then cut, but then they left it there for like 4 seconds, and like even the actor looked uncomfortable. Like, do I just keep do I just keep holding my face and looking this way? Like
Yeah,
it really like read that way. So like I
yeah.
feel like if they could pull some of that back, because like tonally it kind of just felt off.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we listen. We don't want every Marvel movie to be the formula and the same. We complain about that all the time, but the fact is, it is a part of this big shared thing, and there needs to be a little tonal consistency. If they pulled away some of that schlocky stuff and just kept the horror elements in, I think it really could have stood out and been different in a good way, but still fit in with like just the way the rest of the movies kind of go. But
Yeah.
I think some of the stuff was like it was a little too much. So, um, yeah, I don't know. So like, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him back, but I think they got to like rein in some of that stuff a little bit.
Rein
Um,
in the Raimi. I
yeah,
got you.
rein in the Raimi. But maybe listen, maybe you don't rein in the Raimi, and then because then why do you even have Sam Raimi?
Yeah, that's true. That's
And
true.
oh, we should just talk to the final thing, and then we should probably wrap this up. But
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch at the end looks like she killed herself, but we don't see a body. So that's always the golden rule in movies. We didn't see a body. We just saw her get crushed by rocks.
Yeah.
And she's also like a eldritch god. So at this point, so like, do you think she's done? Like she's dead? There's no more Scarlet Witch? Do you
I
think
have
that
a
was like the end of her
feeling
storyline?
I
Elizabeth
have a
Olsen's
feeling
done.
like at the end of whatever this next big arc is, whatever their next end game level event is, I think she may show up as like a Deus Ex Machina there, as like some, you know what I mean, like as someone there to help the good guys win and redeem her in some way. I
Right,
feel like we're probably not going to see her anymore for a while, but she's
right,
going to reappear in some big key strategic moment to kind of redeem her actions from this movie.
sure,
I don't
sure,
think they're going to have her go out as a villain. She's going to go out as, she's going to see the light in some way. That's kind of
right,
my that's my prediction. But
sure.
on that note, I think you're right, Brett. I think it is officially time to bring episode 149 of the Fanboy Podcast home. If you would like to have a question or topic covered on this show anytime in the future, please be sure to email the Fanboy Podcast at gmail.com. And if you're looking
Great.
for Brett and I over on the Twitter, I am at Superman on Film, and Brett is.
At Super BrettCon.
And that's it for us, folks. If you have not yet, please like, rate, and review the show and tell all your friends about it because it is an awesome show. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, yeah.
And until next week, be kind.
Stay fanboy.
Adios.